The Thomas Jefferson Memorial is America's principal memorial to the American founding father and our third president. As an original adaptation of neoclassical architecture, it is a key landmark in the monumental core of Washington, D.C., and it has been ranked fourth on the list of America's favorite architecture by the American Institute of Architecture. Built on the Potomac River tidal basin in a straight line directly south of the White House, the Jefferson Memorial completes the east-west axis, and with its complementary north-south axis from the Capitol and Lincoln Memorial, completes the monumental heart of the city. The circular, colonnaded structure of the memorial is an adaptation of the classical style Jefferson himself introduced to his country. The architect, John Russell Pope, who was also the architect of the National Archives building and the National Gallery of Art, used Jefferson's own architectural tastes as expressed in his writings and demonstrated by his works in the design of the memorial. His intention was to synthesize Jefferson's contribution as a statesman, architect, president, drafter of the Declaration of Independence, advisor of the Constitution, and founder of the University of Virginia. Pope understood the principles behind ancient Greek and Roman architecture and admired the harmonious interaction of geometric shapes and the sense of balance and proportion that interaction provided. Combining spherical and cubic architecture, Pope drew inspiration from the Italian Renaissance architect Palladio, who was in turn influenced by the ancient Romans. Pope borrowed Palladio's column portico in the design of the Jefferson Memorial. Sadly, Pope died before the project was completed, and upon his death, his partners, Daniel P. Higgins and Odo R. Eggers, took over construction, making a few modifications to Pope's original design. Modeled after the Pantheon in Rome, one of Jefferson's personal favorite classical structures, and Jefferson's own design for the rotunda at the University of Virginia, the memorial measures 165 feet in diameter, with a shallow dome and circular perpetual Ionic colonnade, but not an exact replication of the Pantheon, which is completely enclosed. The Jefferson Memorial contains 4 openings, at the front, coming from the column portico, on the right and left, and at the back. Made of Danby Imperial Vermont limestone, the memorial features 54 unfluted Ionic columns, 26 of which comprise the surrounding peristyle. These columns are 43 feet tall and 5 foot 3 inches in diameter. That is about the thickness of a person. 12 of the columns support the north portico, while the other 16 columns stand equally divided amongst the memorial's 4 openings. In the center of the white Georgia marble interior of the memorial stands Rudolph Evans' bronze statue of Jefferson. Evans' design was chosen in 1938 from a group of 101 artists in a nationwide competition sponsored by the Thomas Jefferson Memorial Commission. Added to the memorial in 1947, it shows Thomas Jefferson in midlife, wearing a waistcoat, knee breeches, and a long, fur-trimmed coat, as Jefferson was painted by Thomas Sully 4 years before his death. In his left hand, he holds the Declaration of Independence. The statue was intended to represent the Age of Enlightenment and Jefferson as a philosopher and statesman. The present statue replaced an identical plaster model used from 1943 until the end of World War II, when the restrictions on the use of metals were lifted and the present bronze cast was made. The statue is 19 feet tall and stands on a 6-foot pedestal of black Minnesota granite. It weighs about 5 tons. It is the same weight as 5 elephants. Similar to the capitals of the columns found inside the Capitol building, the statue of Thomas Jefferson stands in front of cornstalks and tobacco leaves, capturing a realistic likeness of Jefferson as well as his strength of character. The statue looks out from the interior of the memorial towards the White House. On the triangular pediment on the north portico is Adolph A. Weinman's sculpture of the 5 members of the Declaration of Independence drafting committee, submitting the report to Congress. Jefferson stands behind a large table with Benjamin Franklin and John Adams seated to his left, and Roger Sherman and Robert Livingston to his right. Adorning the interior of the memorial are 5 quotations taken from Jefferson's writings that illustrate the principles to which he dedicated his life. On the southwest wall is an excerpt from the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson's most famous document. However, the memorial inscription does not coincide with either Jefferson's draft or the final version signed by Congress, for the designers, in order to conserve space, made alterations in punctuation and wording. On the northwest panel, next to the Declaration of Independence, is a combination of 6 quotations, taken mainly from Jefferson's Notes on the State of Virginia and Summary View of Rights of British America, in which he states his belief in the evils of slavery and the need to educate the public. On the northeast wall is a quotation expressing Jefferson's views on freedom of religion. It was taken from A Bill for Establishing Religious Freedom, which eliminated the state church in Virginia. On the southeast panel stands the 4th panel and quotation, which is Jefferson's statement on the evolution of law and constitution taken from his 1816 letter to Samuel Kirkville. Engraved on the frieze of the memorial interior is the 5th and final quote from a letter Jefferson wrote to Benjamin Rush in 1800, reading, "I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man." This quote encircles the memorial's interior and also captures the essence of Jefferson's character. Above the frieze lies a dentiled cornice and massive Indiana limestone dome, which stands 103 feet above the floor below. The dome, composed of square carvings, provides the vast open space of the memorial. If the dome of the rotunda was completed into a full circle, it would touch the floor of the memorial in the direct center. Talk about exact proportions. Dedicated on April 13, 1943, by President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the 200th anniversary of Jefferson's birthday. Today, the Jefferson Memorial stands as a symbol of liberty and endures as a site for reflection and inspiration for all citizens. Each year, the Jefferson Memorial hosts many different ceremonies, including annual Easter sunrise services, memorial exercises, and the Cherry Blossom Festival, and is maintained by the National Park Service. In the spring, it is most beautiful when it is enhanced and surrounded by the blossoming of the Japanese cherry trees.